Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Trucking Chris. Welcome back to another Trucking Tips 101. In this video, what I'm going to go through is the daily checks of just a unit itself. Obviously I don't have a trailer with me at the moment, so I can't cover the trailer side as well. But in this video we're going to cover just the daily checks on a unit, what you should be doing, what you should be looking for. May not be exactly the way that your company or a company wants you to do it, but this is the way that I do it. Okay, so you turn up at a company, whether you be agency driver or you actually work for that company. Obviously they tell you which unit you're taking, your load, stuff like that, anyway, etc. You get given your unit. You need to check that unit and make sure you're happy with it and it is legal and safe to go on the road. Before we get into actually checking the vehicle itself, a couple of items that I recommend you should have. First, set of gloves. Obviously the vehicles can get dirty, covered in grease, oil, stuff like that. You want to keep these little handies as clean as you can, because the last thing you want to be doing is getting in that cab and spreading grease everywhere, especially if it's not your unit. Next thing, a torch of some description. You never know if you're going to have to look at something that's dark, you can't see it, or if you're like me, you work night shift, so predominantly a lot of the time I'm doing my vehicle checks at night, so you want yourself a good torch. Next, you need to make sure you have 2 spare tacho rolls. So obviously you'll need one in the tacho head of the vehicle and you need to have 2 spare ones. This is mandatory by law. Obviously if you haven't got any, ask the company that you are driving for to get you some. This is mandatory. Next thing I recommend getting is this little handy tool. Bring it closer to the camera for you. It is a tyre tread gauge. Just make sure you don't have to have one. You can do it by feel, by look. Some people say put a 10p piece in it or a 5p piece, but I have one of these. It's always handy just to have one. Couple of pounds off eBay or other sites, pick one up or speak to a tyre fitter. I'm sure they can get hold of one for you. They're pretty much the main tools that you need to be able to do your daily walk around checks. So let's get on to having a look at the vehicle. Okay, so you've been given your vehicle, you come out, you found it. First thing obviously you want to do is put your digital card or your paper tachograph into the head and set it for other work. Now I'm not going to go through this because that's a different video entirely, but you found your vehicle. First thing you want to do is just have a walk around it. You want to have a look for any damages. You want to see if the vehicle's sat unevenly. So obviously you want to have a look, make sure there's no scuffs, no dents, no bits of bodywork hanging off that you obviously could get blamed for or makes it unroadworthy. So just have a walk around the vehicle. At the same time you want to be looking underneath it just to make sure there's no pools of anything sat under there, water, oil, anything like that. So just have a courteous walk around the vehicle, see what you can see. Then if you're like me and you have a Scania, you can do a light function test. So it's not that one, it's that one. So this will go through all the lights for you individually. You want to make sure that all your lights on your vehicle are fully working. So your indicators, you obviously can hear the reversing buzzer. So there's your headlights going through the system. You just want to check that all your lights are working and you've got no bulbs out. So we'll cancel that test. That's that bit done. Next, while you're outside, have a look at your tyres. So this is where this tyre tread gauge comes in. Simply all you do is take the tread gauge, push it down into the tread like so, and then have a look. Millimeters, look at that, 12 mil of tread, plenty, absolutely plenty. So you want to do that around all of your vehicle's tyres. You also want to be having a look at the walls, make sure there's no gouges, bulges, anything like that that may defect or make the vehicle unroadworthy. And check your wheel nuts while you're at it. A lot of vehicles have wheel nut indicators. you want to make sure that they're tight and they're in the right position. So obviously with it being an articulated unit, Susie's, you want to make sure they're all there, they're good, they're secure, there's no splits in them. Obviously, like I say, you're just checking everything, you're making sure you've got your dog clip, you're making sure that there's no panels hanging off and everything's tight, and you just want to make sure that you are happy that this vehicle is roadworthy. Once you've done that, what I recommend then is going under the bonnet. So let's get the bonnet open and have a look. Okay, so here we are with the bonnet open on the vehicle. Obviously you just want to have a look at everything. Just make sure that you can't see any fluid leaking off anything. You can't see any pools of anything that shouldn't be there. Check your coolant level. Obviously don't open it because it may be hot. Just have a feel. Mine's nice and cold, so if I needed to I could, but there's my maximum mark and there's my minimum mark, so we're good, we're up in between that. Next you need to check your engine oil. Some vehicles have an electronic way of checking it on the dashboard. This one, good old dipstick. Obviously you need to make sure that the dipstick, that the oil level is between the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so obviously checking your engine oil. Gloves, this is a bit dirty. Need yourself a rag or a bit of cloth, something like that. When you're removing the dipstick, just bear in mind it is very long. So remove it, simply wipe the end so you've got a clean end, replace it in, give it a minute, spin it round, pull it back out, and then just check that you've got oil. Now obviously this oil in this one is pretty clean because it's just had a service, but I can see it's just below the maximum mark, which I'm happy with. Obviously, just to show you how long the dipstick actually is, it's nearly 2 meters long, hence the gloves. Obviously you're going to have to grab hold of it and coil it up. Should it be out of engine oil or low on engine oil and you don't know what you're doing, or you're new to the company, or you're an agency driver, I recommend you find somebody in the fleet maintenance side and just ask them where you get the engine oil from, how you top it up, because maybe some companies, they don't do it themselves, they have the actual vehicle manufacturer maintain it. So just obviously make sure, but oil, coolant, make sure you've got them. So you've checked your tyres, you've checked all the panel work, you've had a look around underneath to make sure there's nothing leaking, you've checked inside the engine, you've checked your lights, you've checked the outside, you're happy with how the outside of this vehicle looks. It's now time to get inside the cab and do your checks inside the cab. Okay, obviously once you've checked everything outside your vehicle, you then need to come and do what we call your in-cab checks. So obviously you need to get in the cab, you need to make sure that there's no loose objects inside the cab. So you want to be having a look, making sure there's nothing that, if you have to do an emergency stop or brake hard for whatever reason, that nothing's going to fly around the cab, possibly hit you on the back of the head, go through the windscreen of the vehicle, anything like that. Obviously once you've checked that there's nothing loose in the cab, you want to make sure you're happy and get your seat comfortable while you're stationary now. Obviously there'd be nothing worse than having to do 8-10 hours worth of driving with a really uncomfortable seating position. So get it comfy while you're sat still. Once you've done that, make sure that your mirrors are clear, you can see out of them, your windows are clear, you can see out of them. Make sure your mirrors are angled right. That's quite a big important one. The last thing you want to be having to do is put yourself in awkward positions, ducking and diving and weaving just to be able to see in your mirror, when realistically you should just be able to turn your head and see what you need to see. Obviously when you're manoeuvring, that's a different story, but for travelling down the road you need to be able to just turn your head and you can see what you're looking for. Then obviously you want to put the keys in the ignition, turn the ignition on, and you want to watch all the warning lights on the dashboard go out. Obviously if you have any stay on other than like your engine one, stuff like that, then obviously you need to consider to have a look and see what the issue is, or contact someone who may know how to deal with it. Obviously start the engine, let the engine sit there idling, let the air build up in the unit. It could have been sat there for a couple of days and it could have lost the air out of it. So just let it build up, let it sit there quite happy. While it's building up, obviously test your windscreen wipers. Check that they wipe across the window and that they don't fall off when you wipe them. Check your windscreen washers, make sure you've got fluid in there that squirts out and clears the window and it's not squirting, say, muddy water or something like that, or nothing. Check your horn, just one quick beep of the horn, that'll do. You know it works. You don't need to do like some of these drivers do at the places where we park up, where they're giving it beep, 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 beep. There's no need, just press it once, it works. Check that your headlights work, so like you've already checked them from the outside if you've got the Scania with the light test function, but check that the stalk works, so just flash your headlights, yep, they work. Check your indicators, left, right, yep, happy with all of those. Press your brake pedal, just make sure you can hear it going tss, dump in the air, make sure you know it doesn't feel spongy or rock hard to press. And just, you know, turn your wheel while you're stationary, not much, just turn it a bit and see if you can feel the resistance of the tyres trying to turn. Once you've done all these checks, make sure you're accustomed with where all the switches and buttons are and what they all do inside the vehicle. You may have never driven that vehicle or that type of vehicle before. Last thing you want to be doing is looking for where something is. You want to know roughly where it is and be able to find it. So check your air, you know, how you set the ride height of the unit. If you don't know, ask somebody. Everybody's always really, oh well, if you ask you might look like, no, if you ask, it's better to ask and look maybe a little bit silly or like you don't know what you're doing than it is to get to your delivery and not know how to work the air and then you're having to phone someone. You look even stupider then when you're already out of the yard. So check it all before you leave. Once obviously your engine's sat there idling, you know your air's built up, turn your unit off so it goes quiet. At which point you want to get out of the vehicle and have a walk around. You're listening for any air leaks. You'll know if you've got them because you'll hear it. Obviously if there isn't any, you can get back in the vehicle. Obviously your first use check time should have surpassed by this point, so your 10 minutes of other work prior to moving the wagon. Which point then, you are good to start rolling. When you start moving, test the steering again, left, right, just make sure it responds, and try the brakes, make sure they do actually stop you. Other than that, this is how I do first use checks on my wagon every time I start my shift. Obviously I do extra checks for my trailers, but I'll cover that in another video. Hope you've all enjoyed this video. Hopefully some of you may have found it useful. Like I say, it's not necessarily the right way to do it or the only way to do it, it's the way I do it. So you will find a way that you find suited for you. Obviously, if you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. Please leave any comments down below. I'll do my best to answer and get back to them. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and don't forget to press that bell button for any notifications of future uploads. And if you haven't already, please do check out some of the videos that are on my channel. See if you find anything else that may be useful. Thank you very much, and I will catch you all later.